Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Today I want to talk about the prescription. Prescription. Have you ever heard of something called a prescription? So I'm just gonna give an overview of what prescription is, and then I will take questions. Okay? We DM or even here on the from the post itself. A prescription basically means that you have a debt with a certain company or creditor, and the debt is prescribed. When the debt is prescribed, it means that company can no longer enforce a payment from you on that debt once it is prescribed. But what happens is that often companies, they still seek payment of that debt because it is your debt beyond the prescription period. The law then allows you to use a prescription as a defense to say, no, I know I owe you, but this debt has prescribed. It means you have taken too long to recover your money from me, resulting from this debt. Okay, that's what the prescription means. And it's not subscription membership. It's not subscription. It is prescription. Okay, let's get that clear, because most of us guys, we confuse the word with abanye about the subscription, but okay, it's prescription. Okay, forever prescription. Okay, so what it means is that how does it happen? It that you owe a company. Now let's say you take a motor, so you owe a West Bank 500,000. Okay, agreement on a West Bank is to pay monthly 5,000 until your debt we pay by motor. So you fail to pay West Bank. Okay, on a certain month. Agreement is to pay every month. You fail to pay on a certain month, and then you don't pay again, maybe on another month as well, or something like that. And then West Bank just calls you, but hey, you haven't paid, when are you gonna pay? Hey, you haven't paid, when are you gonna pay? And then you're phoned by the lawyers or something, when are you gonna pay? When are you gonna pay? That's all they do, and you don't pay. And sometimes they go quiet. Okay, I'm making an extreme example of West Bank because banks never do that. Maybe let's take a practical example of a furniture shop or a clothing shop. Then they don't call you. They call you, don't pay. Promise, oh, I'm gonna pay. But you don't. Or you don't respond. Let's take an extreme situation. You don't respond to the calls, you ignore the SMSs, you ignore everything. Okay? And then that debt obviously becomes due on the date you failed to appear, you failed to pay rather. So that debt yakho agreement mhlambi yithi if you don't pay, you skip a month, you don't pay the whole debt. If you were owing Edgar's mhlambi 10,000, they say then the whole debt becomes due, because the agreement is to pay every month. If you skip, you fail to pay 1 month or 2 months, then the whole debt, that is part of your agreement. Then it means after you fail to pay installment or 2, the whole amount, because now you have breached a contract. But Edgar's has all the resources, not the resources, recourse in the law to enforce the payment of this debt. But then Edgar's just calls you, sends lawyers to call you, send SMSs, doesn't do anything beyond calling you. Okay, you also don't make any payment. So you calculate from the date you stopped paying, 3 years. That debt, it prescribes after 3 years. So if from the day you last paid, which is the date the debt became due, because the debt must be due, you calculate from that date of the debt becoming due, 3 years. Then if 3 years expires, Edgar's does not do anything. You don't make any payment in the 3 years, and Edgar's does not do anything, does not issue you with a letter of demand or any court process to recover the money. You also don't make any payments in that 3 years. And then Edgar's maybe remembers, but hey, konje, Uzuki owes me. Let me sell this debt to, okay, let me give this to a company or a lawyers or whatever debt collectors to collect this money on my behalf. And then they decide to do that a day after the 3 years expires. Okay, any time after the 3 years expires. And then because you owe Edgar's, you'll feel like, yo, Kanendi, I'm over here, let me pay. You can pay because it's your debt, but the law is saying you can raise a defensive prescription and say, no, you took too long to recover the debt that I owe you, so I'm not going to pay you, because the law says the debt is prescribed. That's what it means. So for any other debt, it's 3 years. But then there are exceptions. There are other period of prescriptions that applies to different types of debts. But generally, any debt, it's 3 years, okay? This is in terms of the Prescription Act 68 of 1969, all right? So, in terms of this act, I'm gonna give, I know most of these prescriptions, they don't apply to most of us, né? But I'm just gonna give it for the benefit of those it might apply to. Section 11 of the Prescription Act says the period of prescription of debts shall be the following: 30 years in respect of a debt secured by a mortgage bond, your house, a debt. 30 years. It doesn't prescribe until 30 years expires of you not paying, not doing anything. Not doing anything. Any debt or any judgment debt, if there was a judgment against you to pay, they took you to court. In this instance, they took you to court, you still did not respond to summons, there was a judgment against you, or you went to court but there was a judgment against you. So that debt that is arising out of a judgment, it prescribes after 30 years. So you're still liable for that debt for a long time. It can only prescribe after 30 years. Any debt in respect of any taxation imposed or levied by or under any law. So a debt of any taxation imposed or levied, okay? Any debt owed to the state in respect of any share of profit, royalties, or any similar consideration payable in respect of the right to mine minerals or other substances, okay? 11B, 15 years, the one that I read was 30 years, né? So 15 years in respect of any debt owed to the state and arising out of an advance or loan of money or a sale or lease of land by the state to the debtor, unless a longer period applies in respect of the debt in question in terms of paragraph E, okay? C, 6 years in respect of a debt arising from a bill of exchange or other negotiable instrument or from a notarial contract, unless a longer period applies in respect of the debt in question, okay? And then what D says, save where the Act of Parliament provides otherwise, 3 years in respect of any other debts. So in a nutshell, that is prescription. And a prescription starts calculating on the date the debt became due. All right? So when you come, there are a lot of cases that I've dealt with where prescription was an issue. And it's really a very complex, because the arguments or the bone of contention becomes, when did the debt become due? Because you have to master that period for you to calculate that it has prescribed or have not prescribed, okay? And all of this depends also on the nature of the contract or agreement that you have. It can also arise out of a debt that is not documented, maybe a gentleman's agreement, not written down, verbal agreement that you have with a person. That you have to, there will be dynamics there, because the other one will say, no, the debt was not due up until a certain time. The other one will say, no, the debt was due on a certain date. So there must be clear terms on when the debt becomes due. So when you sign contracts, when you engage in credits and everything,